Welcome to our first breakout session. Thank you for joining us. This first breakout is a very targeted presentation. It's basically for customers of ours that are already on our on-premise offering of Appian and perhaps might be considering or in the process of making that move to our cloud offering. I'm Appian CIO, Miles Weber. I'll come back after Chris Primesberger from eWeek, editor from eWeek and also a journalist covering NCAA basketball. So he's probably been a little bit focused lately on a variety of topics. But Chris will be up here shortly. I'll come back and speak from Appian's perspective, and then we'll have a customer of ours, a very long time and successful customer of ours, CME Group. They'll come up with very practical lessons learned, challenges, and their experience on their journey to our cloud offering. So with that, Chris, I'll hand it over to you. Welcome and thank you for helping us.
Good morning, all. We got a nice, tidy group here today. Yeah, actually, I'm a rarity. I started off as a sports writer, covering the Lakers in LA and USC and UCLA. And then somehow I don't know what happened. The wires got switched, and now I'm doing IT. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. So welcome, and I'm the co-editor of eWeek. eWeek is a site that's been around since 1983, two different names. It used to be called PC Week years and years ago when it was a magazine. And in 2000, we realized we painted ourselves into a corner with that name, so we changed it to eWeek in 2000. And we've seen it all in IT, really, since just right after the first PCs came out in 1981 until now. So we've seen a pretty big evolution of IT, to say the least. And I started at eWeek in September 2005, a couple of months before Amazon launched its S3 simple storage service, as you recall. And that really started the idea of clouds in IT. Although we've had versions of that, more rudimentary versions of cloud, of course, before that. In fact, I remember in '99 writing a cover story for Software Development magazine where I worked, and the headline was "The ASPs Have Landed." Remember the application service providers, and that was before we had widespread broadband and great servers moving data and fast and unlimited storage and all kinds of stuff that we have now we didn't have 18 years ago. And I remember taking a deep dive into it at that point and thinking that was really fabulous. ASP, wow, I don't have to have an app running on my premises. I can subscribe to it. Anyway, we've evolved quite a bit since then, as we know. And of course, Appian, the way I look at Appian from an objective point of view, Appian is really on the cutting edge of a lot of this. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Since I got to eWeek 12 years ago, we've seen the following trends converge onto us. The broadband connectivity, it's everywhere. We have more diverse and higher quality devices than ever, and more devices than ever, all collecting information and sending it to data stores. We have unlimited storage, basically, now. We have faster servers powered by smaller, cooler running, and more powerful processors, thanks to Intel and NVIDIA and other places, other fab makers. And leaner and faster code to run all those apps that run on all these things. So this convergence of events and the evolution of innovation has brought us to where we are today. We can do things like Appian, and Appian is taking advantage of that. The one thing also that I noticed, another trend that Appian fits really into, and it fits into a leadership role, is this trend called citizen development. We've heard of that. That goes kind of way back, but it was not as defined as it is now. Citizen development means that a line of business person can take an application and customize it to that particular workload or particular use case at whatever level of the company, and do it without having to go to an IT person, or maybe having to go to an IT person just in a small or slight way. And Appian is allowing that to happen. And I think we're going to be writing a lot more about citizen development going forward. I think Appian calls it low code, and I think that's That's a good term also. But I think we're kind of all going in the same direction here. This very, very complicated IT under the hood is becoming very, very simple to use and simpler to use all the time. And the iterations of the software are getting faster, more common, and better all the time. This is nothing but good for business. And as we're refining and optimizing all these tools and applications to take on more and more data being ingested into storage system and to analyze what it all means to a business and to enable lines of business users to, this enables lines of business users to glimpse the future in a way and predict what sales-related events will happen, for example, what future products will be needed, and what trends will eventually directly affect the business. That's where business analytics comes into play. We can't have analytics apps housed on our devices, but we can have them housed in the cloud, and we can invoke those services whenever we need them in real time. And that's happening more and more. eWeek is seeing, and I'm sure you are too, analytics is being used everywhere, at all levels and different disciplines, all over the map, and we're going to see even more of that going forward. I think there's a couple data points I wanted to point out here, and then I wanted to talk about banks specifically, because I understand there's quite a few bankers here today. The shift to cloud is definitely happening, and it's taken a little bit of time. When cloud was kind of originally inaugurated or named in 2006 to 2017, the market has been a little bit slow to move on this, and we can understand why. You don't just jump on something. It could be hype. It could be just a fad. It's not a fad. It's happening. I came across a stat the other day. 70% of all enterprises now have either made the switch to cloud in some form, or they're in the process of making the switch, or they're budgeted and planning for the switch within the next 12 to 24 months. 70% of enterprises. Whether it's just one app in the cloud, Salesforce maybe, or an HR app, or an accounting app or something, they're going toward it. Most companies are also combining those services with their on-site, on-premises data centers, if they have one, in a hybrid fashion. And that's actually the most common and the most popular way of ingesting or moving cloud into your system at this point. There's a study published just a couple months ago by 451 Research. You might want to access it. It's called Voice of the Enterprise, Cloud Transformation, Vendor Evaluations. It's a very good white paper, and it's free. Go to 451 Research and download that. I recommend you on that. And you can look around at all the testimonials. I found companies, GE, Microsoft, Cisco Systems, Intel, Oracle, all say that the current IT environment is by far the largest growth opportunity in history. That's a big statement. But for all those companies to come together and say that is pretty impressive. What does that tell you right there? Finally, Gartner is predicting $1 trillion of budget spending moving to the cloud between now and 2020. That's 3 years. $1 trillion. That seems just incredible to me. But that's Gartner. Gartner is well known as a very good resource. And I have done a little research on why banks are moving to the cloud. And some of you have probably seen the story. It was just out a couple of months ago on a site, not eWeek. I wish it was. I wish I had done this story, but it's called the Threat Stack. And the headline is Why Banks Are Moving to the Cloud and Why You Should Too. So even if you're not a bank, you should move to the cloud, according to the headline here. I did not realize this, but Capital One CIO Rob Alexander revealed the bank was all on AWS. Some of you probably know that. I did not know that because I don't cover the financial markets that closely. I do cover the IT, though. I missed that one, but I think that's pretty interesting. They're one of the first U.S. banks not only to commit to the cloud in a big way, but to announce it boldly and loudly. At the same time, around the same time, World Bank also made that move to the cloud. And the company quickly shifted from a risk-averse anti-cloud stance to a pro-cloud stance within 18 months. they ever did that. And here are some of the reasons why, real quickly. Number one, cost cutting, as you can imagine. The cost reductions enabled by the cloud have helped Capital One tremendously. They went from managing and paying for, the real estate and all the hardware and all the people running it, from 8 data centers in 2014 to 3 by next year. So they're cutting back the size of their data centers. They still have on-premise. They're a good hybrid example of financial services in the cloud. And they may be all cloud within a few years after 2018. Who knows? The second point here, there's 3 points. The second point is rapid deployment and innovation. You can move quicker when somebody else is managing the IT. You can move quicker. You can create things. You can move workloads. There's so much that you can do in the cloud that you couldn't do before, either on an on-campus or on-premises, however you want to call it. The third one is the cloud is as secure as on-premise. That can be debatable in some cases. But if you think about it, cloud service providers and ISPs, their business is to protect data, to store it and make it accessible and to make it secure for you. That's their job. If they don't do their SLA, you can move to another cloud if you want. So those are some of the reasons I came up with. I thought they were pretty interesting. One statement I want to say before we go to Mohan is that personally I attend perhaps 24 IT conferences a year, maybe more than that, but I have never seen a zombie escape room before. And I hope this is a trend I can report on. I think this is going to be fun. In fact, I'm imagining there might be some good interviews in there for me to get, so I'm looking forward to that. You guys all have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, Chris. It's interesting that what you bring up about ASPs, because actually when we first started this offering, it wasn't called Appian Cloud. For those of you who have been with us for quite a long period of time, 9, 10 years ago, it used to be called Appian Anywhere, and that was when ASPs were really popular. But about 6, 7 years ago, we rebranded it to Appian Cloud just because that's just really what everyone calls it, and it's kind of self-explanatory. So what I do want to talk about here a little bit is about what transforms a regular Joe into a superhero. And entertain me here a little bit. Our marketing group got a hold of my presentation. I'm a little bit more of a dry presenter, as you'll probably figure that out, but they added a little bit more entertainment to my slides. So, a regular Joe doesn't become a superhero simply. There's usually a challenge. There's a dynamic force placed upon them that causes this action to occur, and typically it's also change. And change comes in many fashions. Change is constant, but there's also other good things that don't change, which are good to keep constant. But we have this challenge of constantly adopting new tech, budget pressures, compliance items. I run Appian IT as well, so I face those as well. But what makes us superheroes is they're typically fast. They typically can do superhuman actions, and they usually have some tech that gives them some advantage there. Sometimes it's some pure superhuman skill, but usually it's some latest tech. And I view our customers as the heroes in this scenario. But change is not easy, right? We see this all the time on the on-premise to cloud conversions, right? There's lots of reasons to say no, right? There's lawyers that can say no. There's regulators that can say no, especially in financial services, healthcare, and those markets. There's the fear of the integrations won't work, or I'm just unique. And it's true. All companies really are unique. Otherwise, they would be a commodity and not exist. And that uniqueness is good. And what you'll see with Appian is that behind the scenes there will support that uniqueness and enable you to make that transition to the cloud if you were interested in it. So you take those challenges, and our customers are heroes here. They overcome those challenges. Because our customers are fast and powerful. They're way large. Our typical customer is way larger than Appian is as a company, right? I mean, our companies we sell to are multi-billion-dollar, if not vastly larger operations than us. So our customers, they're fast and they're powerful. They have lots of cool gadgets, not just Appian. We need to play with that ecosystem, and they're generally well prepared. They tend to be regulated. They tend to have shareholders that they need to respond to. But what goes with this, though, is that these heroes, these our customers here, they don't go it alone, though. They have Appian to stand behind them. But we're kind of like the boring, behind-the-scenes enabler, the helper for them. And this comic is the text might be a little bit small, but it's they didn't create it. This is off the internet. But if you're familiar with the Batman scenario with Lucius Fox is Morgan Freeman in the most recent movies. He is the business manager, the kind of tech guy, the boring behind-the-scenes guy that gets Batman his tech, runs his businesses, makes sure he has money to still operate his empire. And here's Batman kind of explaining like why a certain suit was special. And let me describe it. It says, it's special because, everything. It says Lucius Fox really outdid himself on this design. And he speaks to safety, mobility, a retractable cape. There's some parallels to cloud, and there's, some not. It also has the interior skin that monitors vital signs and produces repair capabilities immediately. And it goes further on regarding the resiliency and self-repair and using data to respond to those things. And there's this thing, it's a parallel to cloud, right? I mean, you look at Batman's suit, it's the first thing they speak about is safety. And in order to make that cloud transition, safety is really important. As Matt spoke about earlier, we invest heavily both in security, and security is very different than compliance, although they're closely related. We focus also a lot on compliance. So if you're in the healthcare market, U.S. healthcare market will comply with HIPAA for you. If you're in financial services or processing transactions and you care about PCI, the payment card industry standard, we'll comply with that. GXP is for pharmaceutical industries for good practices. Also FedRAMP and FISMA for the government, as well as a few others here. I do want to speak to two specifically here. One is the Cloud Security Alliance. We have taken a position of Appian, like you have seen with the launch of Community, of being open rather than a closed ecosystem. Cloud Security Alliance is a consortium of cloud vendors that have come together with the common security challenges and questions that any consumer of cloud technology is going to ask. And they've assembled these hundreds of questions, and Appian has filled those out and made those available. You don't need an NDA with us to access the answers to our security questions. You don't need an account with us. You can simply go to Cloud Security Alliance's site, search for Appian, and you can download an Excel sheet that maps hundreds of security questions and what Appian's answers are to those. And Appian keeps those up to date. And then also maps them to a variety of other frameworks, right? So for example, say you're a COBIT operation or an ISO operation, it'll map our answers to those questions to the compliance things in an Excel sheet where you can filter those on. Now, our answers there are typically yes, no type answers because it's still, it's out in the public domain. We certainly can dive more detail into some of the others under confidentiality agreements. The other thing is for our European market here, there's been a lot of stuff in the news related to Safe Harbor and then how that was replaced with Privacy Shield, related to the exchanging of personally identifiable information of Europeans with US-based operations. There's also been concern in the news that perhaps has been invalidated. Let me speak to that specifically. Appian agrees to the model clauses that the European courts have validated as being important. So there's frameworks that you can align towards, or you can have a direct contractual agreement between you and us on these clauses that the European courts have validated as being legit. Appian complies with those model clauses. So if you have concerns about changing regulations and relates to this, we'll maintain the contractual relationship between us and you to make sure that those PII of European citizens is maintained. We also allow localization, heavy localization. So we're in 11 regions right now across the world and 30 basically discrete data centers or availability zones. We also are adding France as an option. And newly announced right now, we're also going to be adding Sweden. Sweden is the next up after we add France. So for making a lot of investments in Europe because we have a ton already in the US as well. So Lucius also, the second thing here that Batman speaks about is mobility. And for our on-premise customers that move to cloud, our mobile adoption on cloud is way higher for our customers than it is for on-premise. A lot of it has to do with just accessibility. As being part of a cloud offering, you can get to it a lot easier than if it was within your own data center and things like that. So, and then the third point here that you kind of speak to, which is part of that suit, is to make Batman highly available, right? And Matt mentioned earlier this morning, we announced it late last year, is that our high availability offering in cloud is available there. It is redundant across 3 different geographically dispersed locations in real time. We also give all of our customers a 99.95% SLA. If you're interested in getting that additional redundancy, we do offer that as an add-on. And then we give you an RTO, RPO commitment as well on that as well. Really quickly on some of the gadgets here to ensure success, and then I'm going to hand it over to CME here for real practically what their experiences were, what their challenges were, and how they maybe solved them. We'll see if they were successful or not. There's 5 things really to think about. If you can solve these 5 things, your cloud migration is going to be fine. One is authentication. You have to make sure you can authenticate your users, right? So LDAP or SAML are the common ways. If you end up building some custom on-premise authentication module that tends not to work with a cloud offering, most of the SaaS providers, cloud vendors will sign up to one of these authentication frameworks. If you do that, your migration is going to be fine. The second thing you really need to figure out is network communication. So if you have a certain integration point, a database, a system that you need to talk to with your Appian deployment, and we can't reach it from the cloud, well, that's obviously going to be a problem. But we can work through that through a VPN connection, an encrypted connection between us and a location of your choice. That could be an entire data center or just a specific server, of which will enable that point-to-point, as well as a highly available connection with failover of network communication to do that integration. You'll have to. That's the one area where there's basically an additional cost or maintenance burden for a cloud deployment. You typically don't have to worry too much about that for your own data center because you're trusted with your neural networks. This is the one area that you'll have basically additional effort. All the other areas are much less costly. You'll need a way of transferring data to us. And I'm going to let CME speak to this. And then do a practice run with us, or 2 or 3, just to make sure we're comfortable, right? We're moving production systems here, so we'll support that as well. And then finally here, customizations. Customizations are the third rail of cloud or SaaS, right? It is the kryptonite as shown here, and that's like the kind of last holdout there. If you get through legal, you get through the communications, you get through integrations, you get through authentication. Especially if you're an old-time customer of ours, where customizations are much more common than they are today in our modern customers. That's where you get into a little bit of a pickle, but we work through this, and so with that, those that can overcome the kryptonite of customizations, I want to introduce our real hero here. So let me hand this over to Mohan from CME, and he'll walk us through it. So thank you, Mohan.
Thank you, Miles. My name is Mohan Govind, and I lead the enterprise systems at CME Group. I'm joined here by Preetham Das, who manages the BPM initiative at CME. Today, we will be sharing with you all our cloud migration journey. And as part of that, we have this agenda lined up. Firstly, we'll cover a little bit about what CME does, what our core business is, and we'll talk a little about how we use Appian at CME Group. And I will highlight some of the key differences in architecture between how we were set up on-premise to how we are currently set up on the cloud. And then Preetham will talk about the challenges that we faced during this journey, and some of the mitigations and workarounds that we put in place to address these challenges. And then he will wrap it up with the benefits that we are now reaping now that we are on the cloud. So with that, a little bit about CME. CME is world's leading and diverse derivative marketplace. We list several different products across our different asset classes. So basically, CME offers a platform for both our buyers and sellers to manage risk. And at the core of CME, we have the electronic trading platform. We call it Globex. And Globex offers, we offer APIs for our customers to connect into CME and to access these products. And additionally, CME also offers CME clearing. And CME clearing is, again, one of the world's leading central counterparty clearing system. So we use Appian for several different things at CME. We use Appian both internally and externally. By that, I mean internally we use Appian. Our internal business users use Appian for onboarding and offboarding consultants and employees to CME, all the way to actually listing products on Globex, which goes through a series of approval process. In fact, I'm joined here by a product team, Greg, Mahesh, and Jen. In fact, they are one of our biggest business users of Appian at CME Group. Externally, we use Appian for onboarding users to several different services at CME. For example, our clearing services and also the regulatory services. And we also offer self-service capability where customers can actually manage their trading sessions. And these sessions are actually used to trade against Globex and to access these products. So you can see, I mean, Appian is used across a variety of things at CME. So on this slide, I'd like to highlight a couple of key differences between how we were set up on-premise, and that's the picture that you see on the left, and how we are currently set up on the cloud. A couple of key differences that I would like to highlight. Number one is, as part of the cloud migration, Appian, along with its primary database, was moved to the cloud. And we use VPN tunnel, as Miles pointed out, to connect back into CME and to talk to all the applications within CME. And we primarily use database calls and web services to interact from Appian in the cloud with CME on-premise applications. And the other key difference is previously we used to use a proprietary CME code for user credential authentication. Moving to the cloud, due to security constraints, we couldn't really deploy our proprietary code on the cloud. So we are now using Ping Federate to federate our user credentials. And in fact, there is a plan to move towards Duo in the short term here. With that, I will now hand this over to Preetham, who will talk about the challenges and the benefits that we are now seeing from the cloud service.
Okay. Thank you, Mohan. My name is Preetham, and I manage all the Appian initiatives for CME. So I'll be taking you through our cloud migration journey. But before I do that, by show of hand, if everyone could tell me, who here is currently on premise? Oh, that's a lot of guys. Who here is on cloud? You are CME. OK. So I hope this presentation helps you weigh in case you are planning to move to cloud. Let me take you back to 2015 when we were on-prem. We were enjoying the benefits of being on-prem. We were able to customize everything. We had access to our files and directories. We were able to use our in-house systems for authentication, log monitoring, object monitoring, and alerting. But over the time, we started seeing some challenges. And these were some major challenges. The first challenge that we saw was there was a lot of infrastructure and cross-functional team dependencies. Dependencies like database, storage, networking, server administration. And there were too many moving parts and too much coordination, which wasn't very efficient. So that was one of the major challenges that we faced. The second challenge that we faced was our core team, which specializes in BPM, ended up spending a lot of time on infrastructure support. Not very productive, because we want our guys to focus on what they do best, which is BPM. Next challenge that we faced was we saw a lot of upgrades and maintenance, infrastructure upgrade and maintenance outages. Now, these were planned outages, but who likes outages? And these clearly could be avoided. The last one, we were on-prem, but we were never on the latest version of Appian. The time and effort spent on upgrade was way too high, which slowed us down, and we were not able to keep up with the latest Appian product version. So it was high time for us to think for alternatives, and moving to cloud at that time looked as the perfect solution for us. So we decided to move forward with the cloud migration, reached out to Appian, set up some discussions. But was it really going to be that easy for us? I know that there are some customers who have migrated to cloud in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but it wasn't going to be that easy for us. One, because we're an exchange, high security, more complexity. Two, we were the first ones in CME to move to cloud, so there were going to be a lot of unknowns. We took a one step at a time approach and started addressing each of these challenges. So I'll highlight some of the major challenges. There was a lot of minor challenges as well, but I will talk about that. The first challenge, as Mohan mentioned, when on-prem, we were using CME's in-house authentication. But now that we were moving to cloud, we were not very comfortable moving our in-house authentication code to cloud. So we moved and adopted SAML Ping Federate, and it has been working out pretty well for our two-factor authentication, both for internally facing Appian as well as externally facing Appian. The second challenge that we faced was we want to move to cloud, but how do we move the data? As I said, we are an exchange. We consider security as our topmost priority. So we engaged our global InfoSec team, which reviewed the whole process, all the different approaches available for data transfer, and then we used the GIS-approved data transfer approach, which was using an S3 bucket. Next one, all our application. We have more than 30+ applications in production in both internal as well as external. Every application is integration heavy. Every application needs to talk back to on-prem components, be it database, be it services, be it being able to transfer your files or data, integrating with different scheduled jobs on-prem. But were we really open to exposing our DNS to Appian Cloud? No. And that was a blocker for us. We brainstormed internally. We talked to Appian Cloud team. And finally, we moved forward with a short-term approach, which was an IP-based integration. And in parallel, we initiated threads for a long-term ESB-based integration. So this way, the DNS challenge was solved. The last one. When on-prem, we had controls in place. We had in-house applications which were monitoring logs, which were monitoring objects for modifications, and which used to alert us in case of any unapproved modifications. But now that we would be moving to cloud, do we have access to the directories or files? No. We engaged with our auditors and compliance team, and we implemented some compensating controls to address this challenge. So this way, all these challenges were addressed. We moved to Appian Cloud for both internal as well as external successfully. It was pretty smooth, and Appian Cloud team was very helpful in the whole process. But the question that you might have is, we went through all this, but did we really achieve what we wanted to? Did we get what was expected? Absolutely yes, because once we moved to cloud, we immediately started seeing a lot of major benefits. I'll just talk about the major ones. First one, upgrade time. This was the biggest one for us because when on-prem, as I said, we have too many teams, too many cross-functional teams, too much coordination. A typical upgrade used to take somewhere between 6 to 8 hours for just one site. Now that we were on cloud, it came down drastically to under 2 hours, which was a significant improvement. Next, we started seeing a lot of cost savings. There was a significant increase in cost savings, both for infrastructure, resources, maintenance, licensing. The next one is application uptime. So I mentioned that there were a lot of planned outages. But with this, since we moved to cloud, the number of planned outages went significantly down. Now that we don't have those, the uptime is way too high, both for planned as well as unplanned outages. Ease of maintenance. Right now, if we want to schedule a maintenance on cloud, it's just a click away. And cloud team is very fast on performing these maintenance activities. So it's much more easier and faster. Scalability. This comes with any cloud migration. So of course, we got that. Finally, latest version. Earlier, our business users were a bit worried when we told them that, hey, you know what, I'm going to plan an upgrade, because I used to send emails to all the business owners like, Mahesh, hey, Mahesh, we're going to upgrade. And like, oh, really? How much time is it going to succeed? So there was the business users were a bit afraid of upgrades. But right now, the business users are pretty comfortable with upgrades. In fact, now that we are on cloud, we are on the latest version. The continuous push from the cloud team to be on the latest version and the ease of upgrade, we are keeping up with the latest product version. In last 6 months, we've had 2 upgrades against 1 upgrade in 2 years when we were on-prem. So that's, again, a big achievement. So with this, I hope this was helpful for people who are weighing in option to move to cloud. In case you have any questions on the cloud migration journey, feel free to reach out to Mohan or me. We would be happy to talk to you and connect over coffee, drink, whatever, share our knowledge, maybe learn a lot from you guys. So with this, I would open the floor for questions. Thank you.
Yeah, if there's questions, specific, general, items that Appian or Reds.
So one of the challenges we have on-prem is number of environments.
Mm-hmm.
Path to production, all the teams have their own, and break fix, and this and that. Do you have similar number of environments when you go to cloud, or did that get reduced in terms of complexity?
Sure, I'll take that. So we still maintain our on-premise dev and QA environments. On the cloud, we have 2 environments, one dedicated for production, and the other one for pre-prod, which we call it new release. So the reason for this setup is, we have still on-premise maintained for dev and QAs because due to security concerns, we couldn't expose our lower-level environments to the internet, and that's the reason we have this setup for Appian. But cloud provides 2 environments.
But then don't you get worse of both? Like you have to now upgrade environments?
Well, we do have to upgrade, but right now, because we moved to cloud, we don't have any customizations. So the upgrades, even on-prem, are much more simpler. Because earlier, because we had so much customization, there used to be a lot of back and forth with the Appian professional services or Appian team for decustomizing things or if things were not supported.
In fact, I just want to give a shout out to Jim, who's sitting here. He helped us a lot with the cloud migration effort. And as Preetham pointed out, the first step that we took was to make sure the on-premise is decustomized before we move to the cloud, so that way the migration is easier. So now it's pretty much seamless.
I think that seems
Yeah.
like the key point.
Correct, yes.
It's a relatively unique, well, pretty much most of our customers go through all environments. And they all use it. But, you have the choice, and that choice you can make for that. For most of them, they'll do it.
When you move to cloud, what do you recommend for performance and load testing? What environment would you do that in?
Load testing and performance, I can answer. Oh, sure. So when you go to cloud, how do you recommend approaching load testing, performance testing, which environments, things like that? So by default, when you go to cloud, you get 3 environments. You get a production environment, you get 2 non-production environments. If you want additional environments, you can acquire those. I would recommend the like size with production to do load testing again. The one thing to keep in mind is just if you're launching load testing, that's what we have to run. Mainly because we have a lot of machine-based tools that look for certain patterns on raising load tests, and they'll look like denial service attacks and them. So you might want to try them. So, but a like-for-like environment on UAT is generally what we would recommend. But it depends on what your business is. Did I know?
What role did executive sponsorship or executive buy-in play in this process?
So we had strong support from our executive team. So every product or any decision of this nature has to be made. We have a review committee which goes through all the pros and cons and takes a decision. So they were pretty supportive.
The gentleman over there. Yeah.
Yeah. When you were running on-prem, were you integrating with any existing line of business applications? And then when you moved to the cloud, what were the challenges associated with maintaining those links, given the fact that now the cloud system is outside your shoulder?
So as I mentioned, every application that we had or we have is integrating with an on-prem component. So right now, the integration is through VPN tunnel. So once we have the VPN tunnel set up, you just enable the firewall for the integration with your on-prem components. How you do it, like I said, for us, short-term solution was IP-based integration, and we are already working on the long-term solution of ESB integration. But that's how we dealt with the integrations from on-prem to moving to cloud.
So
Follow up on that from an Appian perspective, is that a very typical approach?
Yeah, it's very common. It's very common. VPN by itself or platform by itself doesn't do too much. It's integrated with a lot of other things. And it's, I'd say more than 75% of our customers will do heavy ESB or database or web service type call integration with, between our cloud environment and their existing infrastructure.
So just
straight databases, other kinds of web services. But it's really common and high volume.
So just to add what, on top of what Preetham just mentioned, there was not a single application that we didn't integrate with after moving to the cloud. So every single application that we were integrating with on-premise is still currently integrated.
Any more questions?
How did it affect your staff? You have less staff, more staff, different staff?
It did not affect our staff. It's just that our staff is more focused now. Because as I said, our core team is, they are specialists in BPM, and they should not be spending time on infrastructure support. So now we are more focused. We are able to take up more work. So that's what has changed.
So there was definitely some savings on the support staff that maintain the environments. So now that we are on the cloud, Appian takes care of it for us.
So some repurposing.
So, exactly.
You migrate one application at a time, or did you do one large migration?
One large migration. It was because since we were moving all the data, you could not really move one application at a time. You had to move the entire KDB directory. So that's why it had to be one big bang. But like Miles said, you have to go through multiple runs. We ran prod parallel we had 3-4 different attempts. We made sure we had business users tested out. So that's how, it was one big bang, not one application at a time.
What did it take? How long did that take? To do that big bang?
6 months. So because ours was quite complicated with a lot of customizations.
So how are you running your system, your production system during that 6 months?
Yeah, he's 6 months to reference to the
Sorry.
start of the project,
Yeah.
the end of the project.
Oh.
Not the piece of
Big bang is
work.
just flip of a switch.
So like a weekend or
over a
something?
week.
Oh yeah, that was a weekend.
Wow.
Right.
Did you use a third party to help and guide you, or did you work directly and exclusively with that?
Just with Appian.
Appian and Appian consultants.
Yeah, Vision Point Systems is a partner of that. Vision Point Systems. Jim, stand up. Jim's really good at what he does, and his company is too. Vision Point Systems is a partner of that. They worked with CME.
Performance logistic too.
Yeah, they also do performance logistics.
Can you speak to the point that since we are a heavily regulated business and regulators play a big part in how we adapt our technology, particularly security, did that play into any of this?
So yeah, the question was, CME is a heavily regulated company. How did that play into this migration? So any project that we undertake has to go through a series of compliance and regulatory sign-off. So we have something called a COC compliance. I don't know what COC stands for, but they pretty much look at every single aspect of security, software. Unless we get the sign-off, we cannot move. Change our software drastically, and we had to work with legal as well, and it was an all-encompassing,
The point I'm trying to make
Yeah.
is that for us to move to the cloud is a big,
Yeah.
it's a big.
And as I mentioned, we have two instances of Appian that we use. One is for internal users and the other for external customers. The external instance is audited and regulated every quarter, on a very regular basis. So it's very, very important that all of the measures that Appian has in place for the cloud, that's all audited as well. So, and Appian actually had to produce a audit report to make sure, to let us know that cloud is, or it's safe from a security standpoint. Yeah, it's compatible.
Are we on time? Okay. Maybe we'll do one question.
Yeah,
one
one.
last question, then we can hang out outside.
This might just be more clarification than a question. No data of CME is on the cloud, right? Just the metadata.
Just the metadata.
That is
yeah.
correct.
So
The,
data element stays in-house.
so the secondary database or the business database is still on-prem. We just moved the primary database, and that's why I said those database outages do not impact us now.
Right.
Because even if secondary database is down, that's fine, as long as the primary is up.
Well, thank you. We'll stick around afterwards. Looks like a bunch of questions.